Hi, Jim. Hi, Bob.
Am I connected?
You must be. Or it's that act of God thing happening again.
There we go. Frank, how you doing? You're on the road. Looks like he's in his car.
That's cool. He has internet.
Yeah.
He's still on the list, so he's just making adjustments.
Can you read me, Frank? You're muted. Can't hear you yet. Hello.
Yeah, hold on. Cancel. Done speaking.
It's Alan. There's Frank again. It's like
Yeah.
whack-a-mole.
We had a meeting where somebody came in for like 10 minutes and then she disappeared. It was like, oops, wrong meeting.
You're
I'll
muted.
turn the video back on if you want.
Hi, Alan.
Yeah.
Hi.
Can't hear you, Frank.
There we are. I can hear you. You can hear me.
I can hear you.
Beautiful.
Good.
Yeah.
Hi, Al.
Hi.
Well, let's see if anybody else shows up here. We're kind of a ways from a quorum. I don't know what we can talk about besides the weather or the. Is there anything we can talk about, Becky?
Any bear sightings?
Not here. There's a dead porcupine in the middle of the street in front of my house.
Oh,
That's kind of good news for me because he's been killing my apple trees and pear trees. So
oh,
I didn't have to take personal responsibility for his demise. So that was good.
a hit and run?
Yeah, the coyotes were sneaking up on him, so they should
Wow.
clean that up.
And
Frank,
so let's go ahead.
Frank, I can't hear you anymore either. I see your lips moving, but I can't read lips.
There, I'm sorry. I keep on hitting the wrong button. I have a friend who wraps sheet metal around the base of his trees to keep the porcupines from climbing up them.
Yeah, I've done that with stovepipes occasionally. They seem to outsmart me too. Hi, Steve. I love porcupines, but they are a nuisance, you know. My neighbor.
I never knew that. I never knew they climbed trees till I moved out here.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Yeah.
I'm here to bite the limbs off, and then they go downstairs and they eat some small percentage of what they destroy. Leave the rest on the ground. My neighbor Mary Forsyth used to shoot them And she said she really hated to shoot them because they made such a god awful mess when they landed.
She's pretty good with a shotgun.
She used to use 22 shorts. I would buy them for Christmas for her because she thought all the other bullets were too expensive. She was very, frugal person. Could buy a box of 22 shorts for, next to nothing, 50 cents or something. But yeah, she didn't mind wielding her little rifle. She had a boy's rifle. That's what they used to
Good
call it.
shot too.
She had a lot of guns.
Yeah.
She had a 30 too. That was her deer gun. But
Is it hunting season?
there's certain things you can hunt year round, I guess, but I don't, it's not, certainly not turkey season because they're breeding now.
Mm.
After they finish up, then I think there's a turkey season for males, at least. Not deer season is not till the fall.
Right. Yeah, I saw some hunters out. I wasn't sure what they were hunting. Must have been turkeys.
They could be hunting. I don't know if they're allowed turkey hunting right now because they are still breeding right now.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah. I've had a male turkey in my yard just gobbling away in the morning, calling in his harem,
It's,
They need them every day to get those eggs fertilized.
yep.
If that's anything but water, Bob, I'll be up in a minute.
What's that?
I said, if that's anything but water, I'll be up in a minute
Water.
to your house.
Oh, it's just, yeah, no, it's just vodka. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, I'll be there in a second.
Speaking of water, we're finally getting some rain, which is good news. It's been awfully dry this spring.
Yeah, it has.
What's Steve cooking, Steve? What's he got there? I can almost smell it.
Then I got some chicken going and some Italian seasoning, and I've got some shrooms.
That's nice.
Flavorful.
You sure you don't want porcupine? There's one down the road here.
Oh, I had to pull 14 quills out of my dog's snout the other day, and there was he must have snipped the tail. They were all the little tiny black ones, except for 3 of the white stripes, and one of those, of course, went in sideways. So that was $225 later for one.
Oh,
Oh,
That's a lot.
that's terrible.
That is a lot. And you can get infected though.
Yeah. You have to do it.
Well, I had a Corvair van one time. It was it's called a Greenbrier. It's a rear engine, water cooled Corvair. And it had a linkage that went all the way from the front to the back, which was kind of complicated. It would fall apart. And I have to crawl underneath it and wire it back together with coat hangers occasionally. And one time on 91, on the way back from a restaurant, remember that restaurant, Phases up there in Berniston?
Yeah.
Anyway, the going on to the 91, the linkage fell apart and I had to crawl underneath it to put it back together. And when I put it back together, I had to tell the girl I was with that this is no problem. And but when I tried to crawl out, there was porcupine quills in there, side of the breakdown lane. So I had all these quills in my back and I couldn't back out. So I had to go forward onto the Route 91 in order to not go against the grain, so that was kind of an adventure. It wasn't really that impressive a date for me, but now who's the M? Nancy? Michael.
Michael.
Well, I can tell you what I've done, what I prepared, and I can send it to the committee. I believe I can distribute documents, right?
Yeah.
I just put together a short page and a half describing the problem at the school as I found it, and I think that we discussed this last meeting. I think we all agreed on the basic assessment of what's going on down there. I'll just send the document that I prepared, and I'd like to have a meeting so we can, vote to approve it and recommend it to the school committee, the town, the school, and I think we do need to have some professional that can write specifications for the town for the bid. But basically, what we talked about last time, which I put on a document, was basically a kind of a summary of what we had found over there. And I think there's pretty much general agreement on, which is that the repairs that are described in the two estimates that the town received are for the brain and the controls and related parts for the operation and control of the heating and ventilation system in the school. So yeah, we should get, I don't know what names you have, Becky, for engineering, but and what the cost would be for somebody to write specs for us. But I can certainly share the document with whoever. I think that there's some difficulty in understanding the difference between Shamrock's bid and Nexus's bid, but I'll say one thing. It's essentially the same, not necessarily in every detail, but the two basic things are the computer and the software and all the related digital controls and sensors involved to operate the boilers, the hot water system, the fuel system, and all the heating units that are in the school and ventilation units in the school. So $70,000 is a lot. So we're going to have to come up with a straight set of specs where we can get bids from those two vendors and others perhaps, right?
Yep.
And then we have to find out how we can construct this bid so that we can fall into some category, a useful category in the federal grant program, I think. I think we have to be mindful of that, right?
Yeah, I think as soon as we find out what their categories are, like right now, they're talking about sewer and water infrastructure is guaranteed. But I haven't had further word on the schools, what we can do at the school.
Well, I would be really surprised if ventilation isn't going to be an issue that they address. I'd be really disappointed too, but I'd be really surprised. And as far as infrastructure that you mentioned, you're talking about school infrastructure, or are you talking about town infrastructure?
Infrastructure. That's one of the four categories they originally outlined include. One of them is sewer and water infrastructure.
Water meaning culverts?
No, meaning like a lot of towns have
Lead pipes.
public water supplies.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's what they're talking about, piping to all the homes.
Not bridges and culverts and things like that.
No.
Well, I didn't get any response from anybody, so my effort to withdraw. So I guess we wait for a little while. Is that all right with everybody?
Mhm.
And I did email everybody out the link, so at least if they
Yeah.
were interested, they'd have the link right there.
Yeah, I emailed the link to the notice from our town government. So
Okay. I didn't know because I wasn't on your email.
Steve, you weren't?
Hey,
No.
Bob, did you see that vac truck that we were using to clean out the catch basins
No.
a week ago?
No, where were you down here?
Because I was talking to the guy while I was directing traffic, and they use that truck all the time to clean out basements that are only crawl spaces.
Which truck was it? Which
It's,
company?
it's one of those, the vac trucks with the,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. And
yeah.
he's-
That's exactly what the bidder wanted to use. So I wouldn't mind getting another bid from on the same deal.
Because it's Eastern Pipe Services. But they do it all the time. They even have special tips that go on the end of it to make it more efficient than just a vacuum.
Wow.
I'd like to talk to him. I will.
And
Thanks.
those are the best trucks we've ever had, where in the past we've had to push them hard to get 25 a day. He did 31 the first day and 37 the second day.
Good. So where are you doing the culverts now? I mean, the catch basins.
Oh, we did them. We did what, 70 of them all over town.
Wow, good. So it's efficient.
Very. I
Did you-
lost you.
Did he do the third day or was done in 2?
No, we did it in 2.
Excellent.
Wow.
Excellent.
I can't find you guys. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, Bill Wells is trying to connect. You should be there in just a minute or so.
Let's see now. 1, 2. Yeah, that'd be good.
That'll do the quorum.
That'd be great. Thanks, Mike. Mike, you got a pretty nice logo there. M.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I see a logo on your square. It's kind of a nice innovation you got there.
Oh,
Your
thanks.
profile picture.
There's Bill. Hello, Judy.
Thank you, Judy.
Can you hear us?
Yeah,
Okay,
Sorry about that.
we forgot all about the meeting.
I should have called you. Thank you. So we can begin, but start the meeting, and I'm gonna try to keep up with the minutes here. It's hard, but we got Alan and Joan here. I suppose they're coming here. They want to talk about something. Maybe we should start with them so they can do their thing.
I'm just here to kibitz and listen to what you guys are talking about.
Okay, well, great,
And
great.
I had a short question at some point along the way.
Okay, well, I guess we'll start with the minutes. Have everybody received a copy of the minutes in the mail?
Yep.
Do you want to comment on them or change anything or add anything? Did you get the
All
minutes?
looks good to me.
Yeah, looks good to me.
Okay, I'll make a motion then and we'll get these out of here.
Okay. Motion to accept the meeting minutes.
Second,
Okay, we'll vote to approve the minutes of April 12th. All in favor?
Approve. All in favor.
all in favor.
Yes.
All, yes, yes.
Great. So what we talked about last time was the first issue we had, and which I'd like to discuss tonight, is the HVAC at the elementary school. And basically, I've looked carefully at those documents, and I did get an opportunity to talk to Jason from Jamrock, and I don't think that there was a proposal that was sent to the town from Jason at Jamrock that was to donate some portion of this job, and it was rather kind of a confusing complication. And everybody that discussed this pretty much agreed that that was not really useful for us to have a donation. It's to just complicate the whole process. And so Jason should just give us his best shot when he bids on this job, and he could represent his generosity then. But so we're going to have to go forward, and I think there's general agreement that the school needs a new computer that's web-based software, so that can be programmed and it can be accessed from offsite for people can look at the boiler room and people can turn on and off the boiler and so forth and check the temperature of the building like a modern control system for a house. But it also has a much more complicated system to run, and with the two bids that we get don't really quite line up in parallel fashion. So the computer and the associated software, the digital controls, to replace the pneumatic system that's in there presently, which is antiquated and not really, it's not really something that we want to keep. It's out of date. So we need an updated system of controls that are digital and that be connected to this software, and that would be modernized in the sense that they'd be more efficient and more efficient logic, so that they can control the water temperature and such depending on exterior temperatures and the curves that they generate for most efficient operation. That's what they need. The basic fundamental components of the system, the boilers, the burners, the pumps, et cetera, are in good shape, but this whole dimension of the problem has to be brought up to date. And so that's what both people estimated essentially. And that's what we have to develop specifications for. And I think we do need someone who can define those specifications in more detail than what I prepared a document, which I'll share with everyone. I guess I could just email it now.
Mhm.
Let's see. Have that out in a second. Okay, that's that. So basically, it just lays out pretty much what we were talking about last time, that the system needs, what I just said, the system needs to be upgraded, the controls, the computer, and the sensors in the system have to be upgraded. But a separate thing that I mentioned that we didn't talk about last time is that, and I did discuss this with Jason Jamrog, is that the building could get a fresh air whole building ventilation system that could be integrated with the HVAC system and with the evacuation blowers that are in there now and the exhaust fans and the smoke detectors, et cetera. But it would be a significant improvement in air quality to have that whole building ventilation system. And I think that might be something worth pursuing, because it would be an improvement of the building, and it quite possibly could be something that the grant program could support. So I think we should ask for a separate price for that, because it's separate from the heating system really, although it could be integrated with it. So what are your thoughts about that whole scenario?
I like the idea of separate bidding on it, and then making it, because it's air quality, be better targeted for the grants. Is that?
Yeah, I think so. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that the teachers in Shutesbury were happy with 2 air exchanges per hour, because down in Amherst, it was a minimum of 4, but Shutesbury seemed to be happy with the 2, but I'd be really happy if we could get it up to 4.
It's not just that we could increase the air exchange, but we could also make it more efficient to exchange the air, because obviously the most efficient way to exchange the air is to open up all the windows. And that ends up costing a lot of money to heat the building. But if you have a modern system that, first of all, it can be calibrated to exchange the air as many times as you want it to, and it can also provide efficiency by preheating the incoming air with the exhaust. So it's also can be quieter than using exhaust fans, which is what they're doing presently. So it's an expensive proposition. So I'm hoping that if we do look into it, we can get support, but it would certainly improve the building. If we could manage to get support for it, it would be something we'd want to do, I would expect. Yeah, Becky.
Yep.
My question is, would it be possible for air conditioning to be combined with that system? Because the engineer who quoted on working on the building, he was saying that our current system we would not be able to add air conditioning into our current system.
Right. Well, that's the 2 points I'd like to make about that. One is the school doesn't really operate during air conditioning season as a school. Maybe I'm mistaken, but it seems like it's not that hot. But go ahead.
Could I just address that one first, Bob?
Sure.
So the reason it came up at all is through the municipal vulnerability study, the planning, there was a lot of conversation about climate change, and the purpose of that grant is to prepare for climate change down the road. And the one thing they were asking about and talking about was, if our temperatures become similar to North Carolina, that kind of increase in temperature would probably, would necessitate air conditioning in a public building.
Wow. Really? We think that climate change is going to happen that fast?
Well, if you're planning 30 years down the road, and I don't think we'll get another,
Well, let me just say this,
system.
that's another idea, but the idea of having air conditioning requires the compressors. You need compressors to have air conditioning, and that would be a whole nother dimension to the job. If a whole building ventilation system would require new blowers, and they'd have to be installed, I think, on the east side of the building, to the maybe just outside the existing blower room, but there's no room in the room for any more blowers. The way that I talked about it with Jason, we just talked about it with our first impressions, but it would seem to me that we'd probably pour a slab outside that wall and connect it to the ventilation system that's there, so that would be a good place to locate it. But there'd be some equipment that would have to be purchased and wired and integrated with the blowers that are there and the exhaust fans that are there. And of course, the building does have a drop ceiling, so that's good. That's conducive to ducting air around the place. But that would just be fans and heat exchangers. That's all. That's what it is. And then it would have to be integrated into the software and into the control. So that in itself is probably a pretty expensive job. I'm just in excess of $100,000 easily by the time it's all said and done. Having air conditioning would mean buying heat pumps or compressors. And that's a whole other concept that I don't know if that's something that the school wants to do and it's paid for by Uncle Sam. That could be investigated, but certainly I don't think that would be the same. I don't think it would be the same as having the fresh air, because a heat pump doesn't bring fresh air into the building. It just conditions the existing air. So it's a different project.
Yeah, no, I just was thinking that if we do change the heating system dramatically from what it is, and I don't know which components make it uncompatible with air conditioning, But I was just thinking if whatever changes we made, we want to think about the potential of them being compatible with air conditioning in the future. That's all.
Well, we have, basically, in simple put terms, it's, if you have a hydronic system, which we have, it's not really compatible with air conditioning. If you had a hot air furnace, that's compatible with air conditioning because it delivers air around the building. We have mostly hot water system, so that's not really compatible with air conditioning. It means you have a separate system. We do have blowers in the building, in the gym, and a couple other places, and those could maybe be integrated with air conditioning. But most of the heat in the building is provided by hot water. That's why we have 2 boilers.
Okay.
And I
So
don't,
how are the rooms with hot water heat, how is the air circulation being handled in those rooms?
I think they're just evacuating air with the exhaust fans that are there, pulling air out and letting some air in, so that air is moving out of the rooms through the different exhaust fans in the roof.
Hmm.
So the air that's coming in, I don't think is preheated or anything. It's just outside air, whatever temperature that is. The whole concept of a whole house ventilation system is to make that more efficient by adding fresh air that's been preheated by the exhaust. Because it goes through a baffle, you know.
And you only need to do that in the winter?
You need to do that. Well, obviously in the summer or in the warm weather, you open the windows. We do have operable windows. Yeah. Because there's a lot of buildings that do not have operable windows in this country, which is completely stupid. And they're in the hot sun and they need air conditioning because they're going to fry the people inside it, you know. But we have operable windows, all those nice sliders all over the place. So we can have fresh air in the building when we're out of heating system, no problem, you know. And we are in Shutesbury, over 1,000 feet above the valley, so it's not, you know, it's pretty cool up here.
Mhm.
There are students and staff in the school every single week except for the first 2 weeks of August when Matt throws them all out so that he can do the gym floor.
Oh, really? So you're using the school all summer now? Really? Well, I used to play basketball there in the summer, and so did Alan. It seemed like it was kind of cool in there, wasn't it, in the summer?
We were a lot younger then too, Bob.
That's true. We were kind of cool.
Yeah, we were.
So anyway, Becky, so I'd like maybe to help share with you, or you share with me what we're going to do with the engineering at some point, and maybe get this information together next week about what aids available, so we can try to fashion some kind of an approach that will be most, you know, efficient in terms of funding for the project.
Sure. I'm working on getting a second bid, but I have one bid from an HVAC engineer, and he came in at $13,000 to do all the designing and provide quality control service through construction. So he'd be, you know, he'd be involved throughout the project.
So I'm going to call like Bruce. I know Bruce sold his business, but he's still around. Ask him his opinion about who to call, and maybe get someone else involved. Okay.
Yeah, and I will. I've got a couple more leads to follow up on. Ask for some more bids so we can compare.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask Bob Leak too, because he might know somebody that he could recommend.
Sounds good. Bob, you're leaving on the 12th?
Well, I have to go to the
Okay.
video, do a little job, so I wanted to, you know, do it in between meetings and other things I have to handle around here. So we have a meeting of the capital planning on the 17th, is it?
Yep.
So maybe could we meet, can the building committee meet before then? Before the 17th, a Monday?
Yes.
Uh,
Sorry, I'm guessing. Yes, it is. It's the day taxes are due.
Oh, really?
Um,
Taxes are due on the 17th. I thought it was April 15th.
Not this year.
Uh-huh. Well, if I'm not able to, let's say, today's Cinco de Mayo, maybe we could have a short meeting like next week after you get that information. Like on the 13th or something. Would people be available for a short meeting on the 13th? to
I
review
would.
information?
Yep. I would.
That be okay, Becky?
Sure,
So 6 o'clock on the 13th?
sounds good. And that'll be Zoom?
Yeah. Well, when are we gonna start having real meetings?
We're hoping right after, shortly after, annual town meeting.
Good.
But they still have to talk to the Board of Health and figure stuff out.
Well, it's gonna be interesting. I'm hoping that they let people still Zoom into meetings and have a legal participation in a meeting digitally. Do you think that'll be happening? You think they'll change that?
Well, I think there's rules on the books for that. Remember but like you have to have a quorum in person, I believe, is what the current
Do.
rule is.
I
Yeah,
wonder if they'll
and
change that because a lot of people are changing the way they do business, post-pandemic. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
that's the rule that's standing right now, but it would be good to be able to mix it up. But we've had remote participation allowable for, since it became a state statute, the
Right,
town adopted it.
Well, okay, so the 13th, but now on BC business here, the next thing we wanted to talk about was let's talk about the window at the town clerk's office. We approved the window there. We had some difficulty getting the window, getting credit or something. Did you ever talk to Paul Lyons about putting it in? Or anybody?
I will do that.
I sent him an email asking if
Oh,
he's
great.
interested. So we could just get that thing done anytime. It's a simple job. It's gonna take a couple hours to do. And we'll get that off our list, okay?
That'd be great.
God knows what the price is done because things are going off the wall,
Yep.
construction right now. But we'll check that price. But in any case, the window's the window. It's gonna be bought. As far as the sliders go down in town, in the school, I put a few calls in this week. I haven't heard back from anybody, but I'm looking for a couple people to give us a price on installing those two sliders. Once we get a price that we think is reasonable and fair, we'll order them up. You got the credit in miles now? You did? Becky?
I believe so.
If you didn't, we'll find a way to get those windows by either charging them to Kohl's or having the carpenter charge them and bill us for it or whatever, make it happen so that we can get those sliders in the summer.
I think the treasurer set it up, like 18 months ago. But I'll look into
Well,
it.
the money is in there. We know that's it's one of those accounts that, was it account 30 accounts?
Yeah, yeah,
It's in there from last town meeting.
yeah.
But we're gonna pay for it, subject to the approval of the building committee. We're gonna pay for it from either our funds or the school. So I think that we have enough money to pay for the installation. And we'll haggle over who pays for it when the time comes or maybe before then. I don't know what Steve thinks about that. But that's what we decided. You were at the capital planning committee meeting. Steve, remember?
I missed the last one.
You did. Okay, well, here's what we decided. We decided that we had approved $7,200 for the Marvin sliders and that those sliders were okay. And we would stick with that allocation, which has already been approved by town meeting. But we now have been told that Matt and Andy they're not interested in installing them. So that's not gonna happen. So we're gonna get a bid to install them and we'll just pay for it either with the school budget or with the building committee budget, okay? Does that make sense? So we'll get that organized for the summertime when it's convenient for Matt and for the staff down there, okay? Are there any other problems at town hall that we should know about? Becky, what about your chimney? I did call Carpeta twice, and I haven't heard back from him. I'll call him
It's
again.
not been leaking.
Hasn't been leaking.
No,
Okay,
and with
so
all the
glad you fixed
spring, it's looking good.
Okay, is
Bob, I understand Corpita retired.
that right?
Yes, he did a job on my chimney here at my house, and shortly after that, he retired.
Really?
Yes,
Then that's maybe why he's not answering his phone. Could
yeah.
have told me.
I don't know if part of his crew, took over where he left off or what happened, but I know he retired.
Huh. Well, I called his number and his number said Corpita Masonry.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
that's-
probably his home phone.
So I left a message twice on Corpita Masonry's answering machine.
Mhm. I have no idea who else to call. I mean, he did a
Yeah.
fabulous job fixing my chimney.
Yeah, he's good. He definitely knows his stuff. What else is happening at Town Hall, Becky?
Um, well, the office supply closet is stuck closed. I think the lock might be broken.
We got police in there with guns. They can just shoot their way in, can't they? Come on.
I'm gonna bring a soft little hammer tomorrow and see if I can nudge it open.
Really?
But other than that, things are, I think, the town hall, I mean, the town clerk window would be a great relief. And so I think we're looking good at town hall. There was an issue at the highway barn that, did I already report to you on this? It was
Nope.
about 3 months ago. Steve, you remember where the highway department called and I just called Brian from Hayden Roofing and he came and sent his crew in and they put, I think there were 3 or 6 large panels had come loose on the salt shed.
Really?
And he came in and repaired all those at an always reasonable price. So,
He's great.
yep, that happened. And but I think everything's good there now.
By the way, anybody who wants a dumpster, recommend you call Hayden Roofing and Siding. They're very reasonable prices. And they're right up the road. He did it for me when I did my barn roof. And it was much cheaper than anybody else I had checked out. It's always good to give him. He sold his business, but he's still running it for his guys.
Oh,
That's what Brian's doing. He's actually got a deal with them where he's turning over the business to them, but he's working for them. And they're paying him, and they're giving him a monthly stipend or something. I don't know. So he's getting out of it too. Jim, do you want to say anything about the heating system or anything? Jim Hemingway.
No, I think you've covered it. The only thing I would change in your list is the computer, which is actually an IBM, a small IBM machine, very similar to the ones that are in town hall, scattered throughout the town hall, in the various rooms. And it's running Windows 7. I mean, it's an antique to be sure. I mean, Windows 7 isn't supported anymore. And the computer is probably 10 to 15 years old, so it's had its day, and definitely is in line for a replacement.
Yeah, well, I think I thought I put on my list that the computer is the brains, and that's going to be replaced.
Oh yeah, oh yes,
loaded
yes.
with software.
Well, you referred to it as a laptop, and it's not.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a minor
Okay, right,
thing.
right.
Minor thing. Having access to it online. And only, of course, giving that access to just a few people. Like if Jamrog does the work, then Jamrog would be able to, to take a look at what's going on remotely, which would be a very valuable addition. We can do that to some extent. We can do that with a lot of the equipment that's in the hut for the MLP. And most modern control systems have online access built right into them, and that I think would be a very important addition, so that you could get a general overview of what's going on in the school. Temperatures, one thing or another, and I think everybody who works in the school and others who are monitoring the system, that would be a very useful addition.
Yeah, well, they can even do diagnostics with it.
And diagnostics too, yeah.
So that's a modern system. That's what we need. we're going to enter the 21st century in our heating system down there.
Yeah. Yeah, we've taken our sweet time. The Leverett upgraded their pneumatic system in 2000. So we're 20 years behind the time, so to speak.
We got our money's worth out of
Yeah, we certainly did.
it. When I first saw that pneumatic system, it just blew me away. I didn't know that such a thing
Yeah,
existed.
that old compressor kind of
Rube
chugging
Goldberg.
quietly, pop, 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 just kind of chugging along there, with a big, tank. You'll have to find somebody in town who needs an air compressor and a storage tank. It's actually a very nice old dependable unit. So I'm sure somebody's going to want. We could make it into a prize at annual town meeting or something like that. I'm sure we can find something good to do about
It'd
it.
be good for a wood shop.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think one of the things that we should do down the road is after the roof's completed in the school, I think the school needs a round of maintenance, paint, carpentry repairs to the exterior. And I think the good time to do that kind of work is after a roof is complete. Because the roofing is going to be, it's going to be messy, and it's going to there'll be dings on the building that, that might as well have them happen after the paint job, before the paint job, I should say. But that's something that we should be thinking about down the road, because the building needs some help right now. It needs some attention, some TLC and some paint and some carpentry. So Alan, you probably want to hear about the Old Town Hall.
That was one of the questions I was going to ask. Yes.
Well, I called a couple people in the last week or two to get additional bids. I had only one real bid, and I had some questions about the bid, and the questions were these. Essentially, that I couldn't get a sort of a real firm price, because the bid was based on using a vacuum machine, such as what Steve described, that does the catch basins here.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I'm estimating 3 days, and it's X amount per day. And if it's at the end of that time, wherever we are is where we are, So I would like to see if I can get some kind of a more firm bid, but if I can't, then I'd go back to the CPC and say, this is where we're at. If that's all we can get is a vacuum, they don't know how far they're going to get without willing to take the risk that they're not going to be, that they're going to be done at a certain amount of hours. Then the only option would be somebody that was going to do it manually. And I haven't been able to find anybody that's willing to do it manually. I guess people like me are a dying breed, Paul Corpita, who would go down there and do it manually with maybe a conveyor or something and a hammer. But in any case, I'm hoping, I do have another name, and I'm hoping to get some bids in ASAP so we can get some idea about doing that work this year. Okay.
Well, that's fine. The committee was just wondering whether the project had sort of died or whether it was still inching forward. And as long as there's motion, that's great.
Well, there's motion. Yes. Hi, Joan.
Hi. So I am here kind of as an antique as well, but as the many years president of the Shutesbury Friends of the Historical Commission, we have, as you know, raised money through, selling postcards and all these little things, but we have committed $1,000 to the Old Town Hall renovation. And I was just here to maybe hear an update. Should we keep our $1,000 committed?
Yes, please.
We don't have a lot of money, but it's $1,000. So that's, we're happy to leave it as a commitment, but just wondering.
Yeah, well, apologies for the building committee kind of was in recess for a while this year, probably mostly COVID related, but we're trying to reboot and get things going, and that's one of our projects that's on the list. So
Okay.
reporting on you on that as soon as I can. Well, the committee is going to try to get some more bidders in there.
Well, we'll keep it with you then.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, so is there any other business people want to discuss here from the committee or otherwise?
I'm all set.
Well, I'll take any motion to adjourn and meet on the 13th. I'll entertain it.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
I
Okay.
That's it. Steve,
Okay.
hope you have
Thank
good
you, Bob.
dinner.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for.
Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much.
Good
See you on
evening.
the 13th, if not sooner.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.